Have you ever wondered if someone's feelings for you are real, or if they're just being polite, kind, or friendly? Deep inside, you crave certainty. You want to know if the connection you feel is truly mutual, if his heart beats faster when you enter the room, if his words carry more meaning than casual conversation. That desire for clarity isn't weakness, it's human. We are wired to search for signals of love, to crave assurance that what we give is valued, and to protect ourselves from pain. The mind needs answers because the unknown can eat away at your peace. When a man really likes you, he rarely announces it boldly at first. Instead, he reveals it through subtle microsigns, tiny behaviors that may seem insignificant but carry enormous weight. And if you can read these signs, you will never again be left in the dark, questioning where you stand. This matters more than you realize. Understanding whether someone truly values you is not just about romance, it's about self-worth. It's about knowing when to open your heart and when to guard it. It's about honoring your own time, energy, and emotions, and refusing to settle for half-truths. Most people ignore these signals because they are too focused on words, but words are easy to say. Actions, no matter how small, are harder to fake. They reveal what the heart is truly feeling. When you can recognize these 6 microsigns, you unlock clarity, confidence, and power in your relationships. You will no longer doubt yourself because the truth will be visible to you, not hidden in mixed signals or confusing behavior. Think about how much emotional energy you lose when you're uncertain. You replay conversations in your head. You wonder if he really meant that compliment, if his smile was special or just polite, if the effort he makes is intentional or automatic. This cycle of doubt creates stress, drains your joy, and makes you question your own value. But clarity sets you free. When you learn to see what is really happening beneath the surface, you take back control. You no longer rely on wishful thinking. You no longer need to chase answers. You become secure, calm, and empowered because you can read the truth without asking for it. That is the reward waiting for you if you stay with me until the very end. The truth is, men often struggle to express their emotions openly. Society teaches them to appear strong, to hide vulnerability, to control their feelings instead of showing them. But emotions don't disappear just because they are buried. They leak out in small, unguarded moments, through eye contact, body language, small habits, and shifts in tone. That's where the microsigns appear, and that's where you find the proof that words cannot give you. If you've ever felt like his actions confuse you, if you've ever wondered whether his attention is different with you compared to others, these signs will finally give you the answers. They will help you see clearly when a man's heart is leaning toward you, even if his lips stay silent. So stay with me, because by the time you finish listening, you will never again feel lost in uncertainty. You will know exactly what to look for, and you will recognize the signs that reveal whether his interest is genuine. And once you have that knowledge, you will carry yourself differently, with more confidence, with more strength, with more peace. This is not just about discovering if a man likes you. This is about stepping into your own power, about owning your worth, and about never again settling for less than the love and respect you deserve. The eyes often speak long before the lips ever do. When a man truly likes you, his gaze lingers in ways that cannot be disguised. He doesn't just look at you, he studies you, almost as if he's trying to memorize your presence. This isn't casual attention, it's an unspoken pull. The human brain is wired to focus on what it desires, and when someone's feelings run deep, their attention betrays them. Eye contact becomes charged, not just in fleeting glances, but in those moments when his eyes return to you again and again, even when he tries to look away. These small seconds carry truth, because attraction compels attention and genuine interest always shows itself in where focus is placed. You might notice that he watches your reactions when he speaks, not just to hear your reply, but to feel how his words affect you. This is not accidental. It's a micro sign of emotional investment. He wants to know if his presence brings you comfort, if his words bring you joy, if his effort holds meaning. That constant seeking of your response is a powerful indicator that his mind is engaged with you far more than with anyone else. Psychology confirms that when people are emotionally drawn to someone, they unconsciously search for validation from that person's expressions. It is the body's way of saying, your opinion matters to me more than anyone else's, and if you see this happening, you are witnessing proof of deeper interest than words could ever show. But here is the deeper truth. Recognizing this sign is not just about reading him. It's about realizing your own value. If a man's eyes search for you in a crowded room, it means you are the anchor of his focus. That awareness should not only make you feel seen, it should remind you of the energy you bring into the world. Too often, people doubt their worth, thinking they are invisible, replaceable, or ordinary. Yet when someone's silent focus chooses you again and again, it proves that your presence carries weight. It proves you are magnetic without even trying. And understanding this lifts your confidence from within. You no longer need to question whether you matter, because the evidence is right in front of you, in the quiet pull of his gaze. Clarity begins in these small observations. Once you start noticing where his eyes rest, how often they return, and the way he reacts to your smallest changes in expression, you begin to unlock the language of his heart. This skill sharpens your emotional awareness and gives you strength in every connection you make. You are no longer left chasing words, because actions already tell you the truth. And when you see it clearly, you gain power, not to control him, but to decide for yourself whether his energy matches your own, whether his interest deserves your trust, whether his attention is worth your heart. This is why paying attention to these micro signs is not about suspicion or guessing games. It's about stepping into awareness. It's about protecting your heart while still opening it to real love. Because the more you learn to see, the less you'll be deceived by empty words or shallow attention. A man who truly likes you cannot hide it, no matter how much he tries. His focus will always betray him. And when you learn to read that focus, you stop questioning, you stop doubting, and you start living with a confidence that radiates far beyond one relationship. It becomes a mindset, a way of seeing yourself as worthy, valued, and irreplaceable. That is the strength you carry when you understand the power of these small, silent signs. Attention does not only live in the eyes, it shows itself in the small ways a man positions himself around you. Body never lies. When someone is drawn to you, their posture shifts, their movements adjust, and their presence orbits closer. Almost unconsciously, he may lean toward you when you speak, close the distance even in crowded spaces, or angle his body to face you completely while others remain at the edges. These subtle gestures are not random. They are the body's instinctive way of signaling connection. Attraction pulls people physically nearer, and genuine interest creates alignment that cannot be hidden. You'll notice how he mirrors your movements without even realizing it, how he adopts your rhythm, how his energy synchronizes with yours. Psychologists call this mirroring a sign of deep rapport, a reflection of the subconscious desire to create harmony. The mind mirrors what the heart wants to connect with. And when you see this happening, it is not a coincidence. It is evidence of emotional investment that words could never capture. When he adjusts himself to match you, it is his silent way of saying, I want to be on your wavelength. The deeper meaning here is powerful. These physical cues are not just about him, they are about the influence you hold. Without speaking, without forcing, you shift his behavior. You change his posture, his direction, his focus. That is the invisible power of your presence. Too often, people underestimate their own impact, believing they are unnoticed, that their energy doesn't ripple into the world. Yet these subtle signs prove the opposite. You affect others more than you realize. You shape the environment around you simply by being yourself. Recognizing this truth does more than reveal his interest. It awakens you to the magnetism you already carry. Imagine the freedom that comes when you finally stop doubting whether you are enough. Imagine walking through life knowing that your presence naturally influences those around you. You don't have to beg for attention, chase love, or prove your worth. The way people shift, lean, and align themselves with you is proof that you already hold value. And when a man consistently shows these unconscious behaviors, it is a reflection of where his focus truly lies. He wants to close the gap, to stay within your energy, to align himself with your world. That is not surface-level attraction. It is instinctive desire. But here is where transformation happens. Once you begin to notice these micro signs, you train your mind to look beyond words. You start seeing patterns. You stop falling for hollow promises because you can read the language of the body, the truth that cannot be rehearsed or faked. This awareness protects you. It empowers you to choose wisely. It strengthens your boundaries and helps you invest your heart only where it is genuinely valued. Because love is not about guessing, it is about clarity. And clarity gives you peace. So let these physical cues remind you of what you already deserve, someone who cannot help but lean closer, someone whose energy naturally aligns with yours, someone whose actions, even in silence, reveal genuine interest. When you recognize these truths, you step into a new level of confidence. You no longer wait for words to confirm your worth. You already know it, and that knowledge will forever change how you carry yourself, not just in relationships, but in every area of life. Words may carry meaning, but the tone behind them reveals the truth. When a man genuinely likes you, his voice softens, his rhythm changes, and his attention sharpens every time he speaks to you. He may not even notice it himself, but you will feel the difference. His laughter becomes warmer, his responses slower, his voice steadier. Science shows that people unconsciously adjust their tone and pace when speaking with someone they are emotionally drawn to. It is not about the exact words. It is about the energy that flows through them. That energy cannot be faked for long because attraction rewires communication. Listen closely to the way he addresses you compared to others. If you sense patience, if you hear genuine interest in the smallest details you share, it is a clear signal. This is not just politeness. It is investment. A man who likes you will not rush past your words. He listens with intent. He places importance on what you say, no matter how small it seems. And in those subtle shifts of tone, you will hear the echo of his feelings, an echo that often speaks louder than direct confession. His voice becomes a mirror of his heart, and you can learn to read it. But this is more than just about noticing him. This is about recognizing what you deserve in every interaction. When someone values you, they listen differently. They don't brush off your thoughts or minimize your feelings. They lean in, they slow down, they give you space to express. This should not be a rare experience. It should be your standard. Too many people accept half-hearted attention, confusing it for care when true care is unmistakable. It is present in the smallest details, the way his tone shifts when saying your name, the patience in his voice when you speak, the energy he gives when you share something that matters to you. These are not just signs of attraction, they are signs of respect, and respect is the foundation of any love worth keeping. The deeper lesson is simple, yet powerful. You should never have to fight to be heard. Your words deserve space, your emotions deserve validation, your thoughts deserve attention. When a man naturally gives you this through his tone and presence, it is because he feels connected to you. He wants to understand, to support, to be part of your inner world. That is the essence of genuine liking. It seeks closeness, not distance. It seeks understanding, not dismissal. And when you recognize this, something within you shifts. You stop tolerating conversations that drain you. You stop chasing after people who only half listen. You stop settling for those who hear your words but ignore your meaning. Because once you experience true attentiveness, you realize that anything less is not enough for you. That clarity empowers you. It transforms not only your relationships, but also your self-image. You begin to see yourself as worthy of presence, worthy of patience, worthy of a voice that matters. So pay attention to the voice, not just the words. Feel the energy behind the conversation. Notice how he speaks to you, not just what he says. Because in those subtle changes lies undeniable proof of where his heart is. And once you learn to hear it, you carry a new strength, the strength of knowing that your presence commands attention, that your voice matters, and that you never have to question your value again. It is not only in words or gestures where truth is revealed, but in the effort someone chooses to make. When a man really likes you, he will show it in the smallest acts of consideration. These are not grand displays meant to impress the world, but subtle, consistent signals that you matter to him. He remembers the details you share. He notices when something is off. He looks for small ways to lighten your load. These are micro signs of genuine interest because effort is one thing that cannot be faked over time. Where the heart is invested, energy naturally flows. Pay attention to how he prioritizes you, even in seemingly insignificant ways. Does he check in, even briefly, when he knows you've had a long day? Does he notice and respond when your mood shifts? Does he take the initiative to make things a little easier for you without needing recognition? These small gestures are powerful indicators because psychology shows that attention and effort are the clearest signals of value. We give our energy to what we treasure, and if you find that he consistently gives it to you even in simple ways, you are seeing proof of deeper feelings. The beauty of these small acts is that they highlight what you should always expect from genuine connection. Love is not measured in words or promises alone. It is revealed through action. When someone truly values you, they will not let their presence in your life be passive. They will act, they will do, they will give, and it is not the size of the gesture that matters, but the consistency behind it. A man who remembers what makes you smile, who pays attention to your needs, who puts thought into how he shows up, is revealing a heart that is engaged, invested, and intentional. This awareness transforms the way you see yourself. Because when you recognize that effort is a reflection of value, you stop settling for excuses. You stop accepting one-sided energy. You stop waiting for someone to change when the signs are already clear. Real interest cannot hide itself. It always finds expression in action. And if those actions are not present, it is not your job to chase or force them. Your worth is not measured by how much effort you give to someone who gives little in return. Your worth is measured by the standard you set, by the recognition that you deserve consistency, respect, and intentional care. Every time you see these micro signs of effort, let them serve as reminders not only of his interest, but of your own strength. You inspire effort by the value you carry. You deserve to be with someone who doesn't just say you matter, but proves it again and again without being asked, without needing credit. That is the kind of interest worth trusting. That is the kind of love worth opening yourself to. So allow yourself to notice. Let yourself acknowledge the small things because they reveal the biggest truths. A man who really likes you will show it in actions that may seem small but are full of meaning. And when you can see this clearly, you protect your heart, you elevate your standards, and you step into a place of strength where love is no longer uncertain. It is proven, undeniable, and real. Consistency and attention is one of the strongest indicators of true interest. When a man genuinely likes you, you will notice a pattern. He doesn't just appear when it's convenient, he shows up regularly in small but meaningful ways. This constancy is a powerful microsign because it reflects emotional commitment. The human brain naturally invests in what it values most, and when someone is drawn to you, you become a steady focus in their life rather than a passing thought. His actions repeat, his care continues, and his energy does not fade once the excitement of the moment is gone. Look closely at the rhythm of his presence. Does he only surface when he has time to spare? Or does he carve out time because he wants to? Does he check in not just on good days, but also when you are quiet or withdrawn? This is where you find the truth. Genuine interest is not random. It is intentional. And when his consistency is clear, you can trust that it stems from more than casual attraction. It comes from an internal pull, from a desire to be part of your life in a way that goes beyond surface connection. This matters deeply because it is easy to confuse intensity with sincerity. Many people can offer a spark of attention that burns bright at first, but quickly fades. That is not the same as genuine liking. Real interest sustains itself. It is steady, reliable, present. It may not always be dramatic or overwhelming, but it is dependable. And that dependability is what builds trust. If you find yourself always wondering if he will disappear, if his energy will suddenly shift, then the signs are telling you more than words ever could. When he likes you truly, you will not have to question. His actions will make themselves clear through consistency. This recognition empowers you on a deeper level. Because once you understand that true connection reveals itself through steady effort, you stop being drawn into the trap of chasing temporary highs. You stop giving energy to those who only show up when it benefits them. You stop mistaking inconsistency for passion. Instead, you begin to align with what is real. And what is real always feels secure, balanced, and lasting. There is a sense of peace that comes when you no longer cling to uncertainty. When you can look at someone's consistent actions and know that their presence is not an accident, you feel grounded. You no longer ride the emotional roller coaster of highs and lows, waiting for validation that never stays. Instead, you stand firm in the truth that love, respect, and real interest are shown in steady presence. This clarity protects your heart. It allows you to invest only where there is stability. It frees you from confusion and places you in control of your own emotional world. So let consistency guide you. See it as the proof you've been searching for, because a man who really likes you will never let his actions be unpredictable or hollow. He will not come and go like a shadow. He will be there again and again in ways both big and small. And when you recognize this, you hold the power to decide if his consistency matches the value you know you deserve. One of the clearest signals of genuine liking is the way a man creates space for vulnerability with you. When feelings are real, defenses begin to soften. He lets you see beyond the surface, revealing glimpses of his inner world that others rarely witness. This is not about dramatic confessions, but about small openings, sharing personal thoughts, speaking honestly about challenges, or expressing emotions that he usually keeps hidden. Vulnerability is never accidental. It is a choice, and it is only made when trust and attraction run deep. If he allows you into that private space, it means you hold significance far greater than casual interest. Psychology teaches us that vulnerability is a form of intimacy. The human mind naturally protects itself from rejection by hiding weakness or fear. Yet, when a man starts lowering that guard around you, it is because he wants you to know the real version of him, not just the polished image. That desire comes from emotional connection. It is a subtle but powerful microsign that you matter enough for him to risk discomfort. Because to open up is to risk judgment, and no one takes that step unless they feel a genuine pull toward closeness. Recognizing this truth shifts your perspective on what truly matters in connection. Too often people mistake charm for sincerity, surface-level attention for depth. But charm fades when there is no emotional anchor. True interest is proven when someone allows you to see them without the mask, when they share not only their strengths but also their doubts. And this is where you should hold your standard high. Because if you cannot be with someone who is willing to open up, then what you have is not real intimacy, it is performance. The strength of noticing this sign is not just about knowing his feelings, it is about recognizing your own worth as someone who deserves honesty. You deserve relationships where you are trusted with truth, not kept at arm's length with shallow conversation. You deserve to be seen as someone safe, someone important, someone who is worth revealing the real self to. And when you receive that, it should not only confirm his liking, but also affirm your power. You are the kind of presence that invites honesty, the kind of soul that makes walls fall down. That is not ordinary. It is extraordinary. When you allow this awareness to guide you, you begin to filter connections differently. You stop being impressed by empty words or gestures meant to distract. You start looking for the signs that matter most: openness, trust, and truth. And when you see them, you know you are not being toyed with, you are being valued. This clarity not only strengthens your relationships, but also deepens your own confidence. You begin to carry yourself with the quiet power of someone who knows they are worthy of real intimacy, not surface attention. So pay attention to the moments when he lets his guard down, when he reveals what others don't see, when he chooses honesty over image. Those are not small things, they are everything. They are proof that his interest goes beyond attraction, that his heart is leaning toward connection. And once you can see it, you no longer question your worth. You know it, and that knowledge becomes the unshakable foundation you stand on, in love and in life. Another undeniable sign of real interest is the way he remembers the little things you say. Not just the big moments, not just the obvious details, but the quiet comments you may even forget you made. When someone truly likes you, their mind naturally locks onto your words, because to them, nothing you say is insignificant. This attention to detail is not random. It is the mind's way of prioritizing what matters most. Psychology shows that when emotions are involved, memory sharpens. The brain works harder to store and recall information connected to someone it values. So when he recalls what you like, what you dislike, or something you mentioned weeks ago, it is a micro sign of genuine interest. These moments of recall are powerful because they reveal emotional investment. He is not just hearing you, he is listening. He is not just passing time in conversation, he is collecting pieces of who you are and holding on to them. This is how care manifests in subtle ways. It shows that he doesn't just want to talk to you, he wants to understand you, to know you, to carry your words with him beyond the moment. And that effort, whether conscious or unconscious, is a reflection of value. People do not carefully store details about those they feel indifferent toward. They save energy for the ones who matter. Understanding this truth shifts the way you see your own worth. When someone remembers your words, it validates that you are not invisible, that your voice carries weight, that your presence leaves an imprint. And this is something you should never minimize. You deserve to be with someone who values not only your beauty or presence, but also your mind, your thoughts, and your feelings. That kind of remembrance is more than attraction. It is respect, and respect is the bedrock of any lasting connection. Too often people settle for surface-level interest, mistaking empty flattery for real attention. But flattery fades quickly, while genuine memory endures. If he recalls something you mentioned in passing, it shows that he values your words enough to make them part of his inner world. That is not a small thing. It is a profound sign that you matter deeply to him. And when you recognize this, you also begin to elevate your standards. You stop giving your energy to those who ignore you, those who forget you, those who make you feel unseen. Instead, you align with those who prove through consistent attention that you are worth remembering. This recognition does more than confirm his feelings. It strengthens your confidence in yourself. You begin to carry yourself differently. When you know your presence leaves an imprint on others, you stop questioning your impact. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's world. You realize that your words have power, that your existence creates ripples, that you are not someone who passes unnoticed. And once you own this truth, you move through life with a new sense of certainty. So notice the details. Notice the way he recalls what you love, what you dislike, what you once mentioned in passing. Those are not accidents. They are signals of real care, signs that his heart is paying attention. And when you can see this clearly, you no longer have to wonder if his interest is genuine. The proof is in the way he carries your words with him, silently confirming the value you already hold. Another powerful sign is the way his energy shifts when you enter the room. Human psychology makes it impossible to fully disguise the body's natural reactions to emotional triggers, and genuine attraction is one of the strongest triggers of all. His posture changes, his eyes brighten, his tone of voice adjusts, and suddenly there is a liveliness in him that wasn't there a moment before. These are not rehearsed behaviors. They are spontaneous responses driven by the nervous system. The body reacts before the mind has time to control it. And that is why these changes carry so much truth. When someone truly likes you, your presence alters their entire state of being. It's not about what he says, it's about what his presence reveals without words. His attention becomes sharper, his focus narrows, and his mind orients toward you in a way that feels undeniable. The psychological explanation is simple. We are wired to give priority to what we value most. And when someone values you, their internal compass naturally points in your direction as though you are the center of gravity in that space. This is not just about romance, it is about being seen in the rawest and most unfiltered form. To feel that your presence shifts another person's energy is to feel the depth of your own worth. It is to realize that you carry the power to influence emotions, to awaken excitement, to bring light into someone else's atmosphere. That is something you should never dismiss as small. It is a reflection of how deeply impactful you are, even when you do nothing but simply exist. So many people chase words, looking for confirmation in what someone says, while overlooking the undeniable truth of body language and energy. Words can be crafted, but energy cannot be faked. The way he leans in when you speak, the way his eyes search for you, even when you're not speaking, the subtle shifts in his mood when you are near, these are all silent admissions of care. They reveal a level of emotional engagement that goes far beyond casual interest. And the more you learn to see this, the less you will ever settle for empty words that are not backed by genuine presence. There is a deep empowerment in recognizing these subtle truths. It teaches you to trust your intuition, to see beyond surface-level gestures, and to understand the psychology of human connection at its core. You stop waiting for someone to tell you what you already know in your gut. You begin to rely on the undeniable signals, the ones the body cannot hide, the ones the heart unconsciously reveals. This shifts your entire perspective because you no longer depend on external validation to confirm your worth. You already know that your presence carries weight. You already know that you are capable of changing the atmosphere around you simply by being there. And once you realize this, your standards rise effortlessly. You no longer crave attention from those who remain unaffected by your presence because you understand that true connection is not forced. It is felt. It is magnetic, undeniable, and deeply real. When someone's energy shifts around you, it is a mirror reflecting your own power. And the moment you see that clearly, you begin to walk through life with a confidence that can't be shaken because you understand you are not just noticed, you are felt deeply, undeniably, and profoundly. There is another unmistakable signal that cannot be hidden: the way he listens to you. True attention is rare in this world because most people hear only enough to respond, not enough to understand. But when someone genuinely values you, their listening transforms into something deeper. Their eyes lock into yours not out of habit but out of presence. Their silence carries weight because it is filled with intention, and every pause they take is a space they are holding for you to exist fully in your truth. This kind of listening is not casual. It is a form of devotion. The psychology behind it is simple yet profound. Humans have limited focus, and we naturally give it most to what matters most. When someone listens not just to your words but to your tone, your emotions, your pauses, and even the things you don't say, they are telling you that you are more than just another voice in the noise of the world. They are telling you that you are significant. They are telling you that your thoughts and feelings occupy a place of priority in their mind, and that is something no superficial gesture could ever replicate. Think about the way it feels when someone truly listens. It makes you breathe deeper. It makes you feel safe enough to be honest, to be unfiltered, to be vulnerable. And that feeling is not accidental. It is the direct result of someone creating emotional space for you. When he does this, it's not because he has to, but because something in him is pulled toward the gravity of your presence. He is invested not only in your words, but in your essence, and that is one of the clearest signs of real connection. This depth of attention has the power to shift your entire perspective on what you deserve. Because once you've been genuinely listened to, once you've felt what it's like to have someone hang on to your words as though they matter deeply, you can no longer accept half-hearted interest. You begin to realize that your voice carries weight, and that anyone who cannot recognize its worth does not deserve the gift of your openness. The act of being truly heard validates your inner self in ways that nothing else can, and once you've experienced it, you will never again settle for someone who treats your presence as background noise. It is not the grand declarations or scripted lines that reveal truth. It is the small, consistent acts of attention, the way he remembers details you barely recall mentioning, the way he notices the shifts in your tone that others overlook, the way he can sense when something is off even when you're trying to mask it. These are the signals of a heart that is attuned to you, a mind that is naturally aligned with your presence, and a soul that cannot help but pay attention. And this is where you must recognize your own power. The fact that someone listens so deeply to you is proof that you carry a voice that commands respect without demanding it. It is proof that your presence carries meaning far beyond appearances. And when you embrace that truth, when you truly see yourself as someone worthy of full, undivided attention, you unlock a new standard for love, for respect, and for life itself, because you were never meant to be half seen or half heard. You were meant to be fully felt, fully valued, and fully embraced. What cannot be overlooked is the way his energy shifts in your presence. Energy is not something you can fake, and the human body betrays what the mind tries to conceal. Pay attention to how his posture changes when you walk into the room, how his voice softens or deepens, how his entire demeanor aligns itself with the rhythm of your existence. The nervous fidgeting, the subtle lean toward you, the unconscious mirroring of your gestures, all of these are signals that the heart is engaged before the mind has a chance to intervene. Attraction is not always loud, but it is always honest. The psychology of connection reveals that the body speaks long before the tongue does. Micro-expressions, those fleeting flashes across the face, betray what someone feels at their core. A glance that lingers too long, a smile that emerges without warning, eyes that follow you even in a crowded space. These are not coincidences. They are involuntary responses, proof that his guard falls in the gravitational pull of your presence. You are witnessing instinct in motion, a raw truth that slips past all defenses. And when he finds himself drawn to you in ways he can't quite explain, it shows in his consistency. Words can be rehearsed, but consistency cannot be faked. When someone makes you a priority without labeling it, when their actions prove time and again that they will show up, reach out, remember, and care, it becomes undeniable. Consistency is not an accident. It is the clearest declaration of value. If he invests effort without being asked, if he goes beyond convenience to be present in your world, he is not just passing time, he is revealing where his heart truly resides. This steady devotion is where real intimacy begins. Because intimacy is not built through grand gestures alone, it is built through the quiet rhythm of reliability, through the comfort of knowing that you are seen and chosen not just once, but over and over again. And when you allow yourself to notice these patterns, you begin to awaken to the reality that love is not measured by words, but by the unwavering presence that stands behind them. The truth is, most people are distracted. Most people are restless. Most people drift in and out of connections without anchoring themselves to anything real. So when someone remains steady, when someone chooses depth instead of distance, it speaks volumes. It tells you that what he feels is not fleeting, that it is not just desire disguised as interest, but something that has taken root, something that is being nurtured in silence. And as you absorb this, it awakens something powerful within you. It reminds you that you deserve more than half-hearted attention, more than empty promises, more than shallow connections that vanish at the first sign of difficulty. You deserve the kind of presence that does not waver when tested, the kind of devotion that is consistent in both ease and challenge, the kind of attention that proves you are not optional, you are essential. To recognize this is to reclaim your worth. To embrace this is to raise your standard. And to demand this is to honor the truth of who you are, someone deserving of energy that cannot be dimmed, attention that cannot be diverted, and consistency that cannot be broken. Because love, in its truest form, is not about moments that shine and fade. It is about the steady flame that burns through every season. There is a quiet strength in the way someone allows themselves to be vulnerable with you. Vulnerability is the ultimate unveiling, the point where masks fall away and the truth of a soul is laid bare. When he speaks his fears without fearing your judgment, when he shares his insecurities without hiding behind pride, when he opens the doors to parts of himself that he doesn't reveal to the world, it is not weakness, it is trust. Vulnerability is the purest form of courage, because it says, "Here I am in my rawest form, and I trust you enough to hold it." Psychology teaches us that the walls people build are not just to keep others out, but to protect themselves from pain. So when someone begins to lower those walls for you, it is not a small gesture, it is an extraordinary act of faith. It is proof that something within them knows you are not just another passerby, but someone worth letting in. This kind of openness does not happen by accident. It is deliberate. It is earned. It is a reflection of the bond that is silently forming between two hearts long before it has been named. And the beauty of this vulnerability is that it deepens connection in ways nothing else can. Because intimacy without openness is an illusion, a fragile performance that collapses under the weight of truth. Real connection is born when defenses dissolve, when hearts expose both their light and their shadows, and when both are accepted with the same tenderness. If he allows you to see the parts of him that are not polished, not rehearsed, not perfect, he is not just showing you who he is is giving you the gift of his authenticity. Authenticity is magnetic. It pulls you closer because deep down we are all starving for something real in a world full of facades. We crave what cannot be fabricated: honesty, rawness, depth. And when you encounter it, it awakens something inside of you that says, "This is what I have been waiting for." This is the kind of presence that makes love more than a word, more than a gesture, more than a fleeting high. It makes love a sanctuary. The more you notice this, the more you realize that true love is not about perfection. It is not about someone who never falters, never doubts, never struggles. True love is about someone who chooses to reveal those imperfections, who chooses to trust you with them, and who chooses to keep showing up despite them. That choice is everything. That choice is love itself, stripped of illusion. And in this recognition lies your own transformation, because the moment you allow yourself to see vulnerability as strength, you begin to demand it in your own life. You stop settling for shallow connections that only show you the polished surface. You stop tolerating half-truths and empty gestures. You begin to understand that what you deserve is not someone who pretends to be flawless, but someone who is brave enough to be real. When you honor this truth, you elevate your own worth. You align yourself with love that is fearless, love that is whole, love that does not hide behind walls but instead dares to be seen fully. And in doing so, you remind yourself of a fundamental truth, that the deepest connections are not formed in moments of perfection, but in moments of honesty. That is where love thrives. That is where love lasts. That is where love becomes unbreakable. There is a sacred energy that radiates when love is met with presence. Presence is not just about being physically there. It is about showing up with your entire being. It is about listening with more than your ears, seeing with more than your eyes, and feeling with more than your skin. When someone is truly present with you, distractions fade into the background, time bends, and in that space only you exist. That kind of focus is not common because in a world overflowing with noise, true presence is the rarest form of devotion. Presence is what transforms love from a word into an experience. It is what makes a simple moment feel infinite, what turns silence into a language, what allows you to feel understood without explanation. When he offers his attention without fragments, when he looks at you as though you are the only reality worth noticing, he is saying more than words ever could. He is saying that you are worth more than everything else competing for his mind, his energy, his life. This level of presence cannot be faked because the human heart knows when it is truly seen. Psychology shows us that attention is one of the deepest forms of affection because what we give our focus to, we give our energy to. And what we give our energy to, we give our life to. So when someone chooses to invest that life force into you, when they put away distractions and choose to enter into your world fully, it is love expressing itself in its purest form. And this presence does more than just validate. It heals. To be fully received without judgment, to be understood without rushing, to be acknowledged without conditions is to experience a form of wholeness that few ever truly taste. It fills the spaces inside that once felt unseen. It speaks to the parts of you that always wondered if you were enough. It silences the internal voice that told you to fight for attention. Because here in this presence, you don't have to fight. You only have to be. The power of this truth lies not only in recognizing it from another, but in embodying it yourself. When you learn to give presence as much as you crave it, you become a force of transformation in the lives of those you love. You become the person who listens beyond words, who notices the smallest shifts, who makes others feel like they are the only soul in the universe for that moment. That is the kind of love people never forget because it goes deeper than grand gestures or fleeting thrills. It touches the essence of being. When presence becomes the foundation, relationships no longer rely on constant reassurance because presence itself is reassurance. It becomes the anchor in chaos, the steady flame in uncertainty, the quiet reminder that even when the world feels overwhelming, there is a space where you are held completely. And in this, you come to see that love is not about chasing, not about clinging, not about begging for scraps of attention. Love, in its truest form, is the art of showing up fully. It is the willingness to meet another human soul without masks, without distraction, without fear. That is the kind of love that elevates, the kind of love that transforms, the kind of love that makes you believe again in everything your heart has ever longed for. Love that is rooted in presence does not demand perfection, because perfection was never the point. It thrives on truth, on rawness, on the courage to be unpolished yet completely real. When you are met with this kind of acceptance, every flaw becomes less of a wound and more of a signature, proof that you are human, proof that you are worthy exactly as you are. The masks you once carried for protection begin to feel heavy, unnecessary, even suffocating, because true connection does not ask you to hide, it asks you to be seen. The human spirit longs for this authenticity more than anything else. Surface-level admiration fades quickly, but being valued for your essence has a permanence that cannot be shaken. This is why shallow attention never satisfies, why empty words never fill the void. Deep inside, you know that what you need is not to be noticed for fragments of yourself, but to be embraced in your entirety. That is the miracle of unconditional love. It gathers all your scattered pieces and says, "You are whole even here." This kind of love rewires the way you see yourself. Neuroscience tells us that consistent acceptance and affirmation reshape the brain, softening old patterns of doubt and fear. Every time you are received without judgment, a new pathway is built. teaching your mind that you are not too much, not too broken, not too complicated to be worthy. Love becomes a silent architect within you, rebuilding foundations you thought were beyond repair. The scars remain, but they no longer dictate the story. Instead, they become symbols of resilience, proof of how much strength it took to arrive here. And the beauty of this transformation is that it does not stay contained within the relationship. It spills into every corner of your existence. When you are seen deeply, you walk differently, you speak differently, you carry yourself with a quiet power that others can feel. Self-doubt begins to dissolve because love has anchored you in a truth that no external voice can shake. You no longer beg the world for validation because you have already tasted what it means to be fully known. This shift also changes how you give love. Once you have experienced what it means to be fully accepted, you cannot help but mirror that same grace. You begin to love people not for their masks, but for their essence. You stop demanding perfection because you understand the beauty of imperfection. You stop clinging to conditions because you know that love thrives in freedom, not control. You learn to create space where others can lay down their armor because you know how much it meant when someone created that space for you. In this, love becomes less about possession and more about liberation. It becomes less about needing and more about overflowing. It becomes less about fear of loss and more about the power of presence. And as you embody this kind of love, you not only transform your relationships, you transform yourself. You become the living proof that love, when it is real, does not bind you, it sets you free. You become the reminder that what people crave most is not a perfect partner, but a soul who chooses them again and again, without distraction, without pretense, without conditions. That is the kind of love that heals generations, that rewrites cycles of pain, that teaches the human heart that it was never unworthy. It is not a fleeting spark, but a steady fire, burning with a strength that time cannot extinguish. And once you have felt it, once you have given it, nothing less will ever feel like enough. Love in its purest form demands courage because it strips away every illusion that once shielded you from rejection. It dares you to stand exposed, carrying your flaws, your fears, your fragile humanity, and trust that you are still enough. This kind of love is not fragile, it is fearless. It does not hide when things become heavy, nor does it retreat when shadows appear. It steps closer, not away. It whispers to the deepest wounds that they no longer need to be hidden because they are safe now. And in that safety, healing begins. Healing does not happen in isolation. It happens when someone looks at your brokenness and chooses to stay anyway. It happens when you are no longer forced to perform strength, but are allowed to unravel without shame. The walls you built for survival begin to crumble, not because someone tears them down, but because love makes them unnecessary. And with every brick that falls, you feel the weight lift from your chest, making room for breath, for peace, for a freedom you forgot existed. That freedom is the birthplace of growth. You begin to realize that love is not about finding someone to complete you. It is about discovering the parts of yourself you buried and bringing them back into the light. The presence of unconditional acceptance makes you brave enough to confront your reflection, not with criticism, but with compassion. You see your scars not as failures, but as evidence of survival. You see your struggles not as proof of weakness, but as chapters of resilience, and suddenly you no longer shrink to fit the world's expectations. You expand because love has shown you that you were never too much, never too small, never unworthy. This shift radiates far beyond romance. It reshapes friendships, families, communities, even the way you carry yourself into the world. When love is given without conditions, it awakens the desire to give the same. It creates a ripple effect, touching lives you may never realize you've impacted. Your compassion grows deeper, your patience grows stronger, your empathy becomes a natural language. And in this way, love does not just change you, it changes the world through you. The greatest proof of strength is not how much you can endure alone, but how much you allow yourself to be vulnerable in front of another. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is the ultimate form of bravery, to say, "Here I am with all my cracks and imperfections, and I am still worthy of love," requires more courage than any mask could ever provide. And when that vulnerability is met with acceptance instead of rejection, it becomes the foundation of unbreakable trust. This trust transforms fear into faith. Faith that no matter how uncertain life becomes, there will be ground to stand on. Faith that no matter how many storms rise, love will hold steady. Faith that even when everything else collapses, the essence of your worth will remain untouched. That is the kind of faith that carries you through chaos and anchors you in peace. When you live anchored in love, you no longer chase validation because you have already tasted a truth deeper than approval. You no longer fear abandonment because you know that your worth does not disappear if someone walks away. You no longer cling to control because real love teaches you that freedom and connection can exist together. You become a force of quiet strength, not because you need the world to see it, but because you finally believe it yourself. And it is in that belief, in that unshakable grounding, that life transforms. Not because love fixes everything, but because it reveals that you were never broken beyond repair. It shows you that the power to rise, to heal, to grow was always within you. Love simply reminded you of it.